Well, good evening, all my Isaac family, Housing Task Force. How are you all? I'm so happy to be joining you, even if it's through a recording. But we just want to make sure that I update you on some things that are happening at the commission level and make sure we're all in the same page. So, without further ado, here we go. What I want to first start off with is recapping and kind of giving some overview on some housing issues that showed up at our meeting on March 1st, as well as March 15th. So the March 1st meeting is the meeting that was my first meeting that I actually missed. I had a chance to talk with you all as we were planning for the housing forum for the counties, but I wasn't feeling so well that day, so I didn't make it to the commission meeting. And with respects to housing, we adopted the 400 North Rose Phase 2 brownfield plan. And so that was really the only housing component that we touched on for March 1st. And just to recap that project, 400 North Rose is the project that sits actually next to Isaac Church, or St. Luke's, excuse me. And so 400 North Rose Phase 2 is going to be the other part of that project, which the brownfield tax incentives are only going to be for the units that are affordable. And so this project is more workforce housing, but they do have a few units that are within the affordable unit definition. And so for March 15th meeting, we had the Hotel Intervention Project, which Stephanie Hoffman, your wonderful co-chair, and many other organizations bound together to help the folks at the encampment get treated with dignity and respect, as well as move them out of the brownfield land that they were sitting on and get them into the hoteling project. So that came in front of the commission March 15th, and we approved the $250,000 to go towards that. I did leave my comments with respects to that project. Thank you again to all of the organizations that were on the ground doing the work, because people absolutely needed to be treated with dignity and respect. But we know that there's a lot more work that needs to happen that touches our families. And as we all know, unfortunately, disproportionately, families and people of color have been impacted. And so we really need solutions that kind of dig down into that group as well. There was a resolution that was signed at that same meeting to declare a local state of emergency so that we can continue to meet virtually through August. That is still something that we take, not really day by day, but meeting by meeting. There has been conversations about us moving to a hybrid where we will have in person and still have the opportunity for people to participate virtually. Personally, that is something that I have advocated for. One of the, I don't want to call it a joy of COVID, but one of the things that have come out of COVID that has been good is moving our commission meetings to this virtual space. We have had so much more involvement from people who otherwise would not have been able to be involved. And I don't want to lose that once we go back into in person. So we're figuring out how to make those meetings hybrid, but I just wanted to let you all know that as well. A reminder to everyone that some really important work that is in existence, there's open public comment time for the analysis to impediments to fair housing. And we know fair housing is so important to our ultimate housing work. So I'm going to ask everyone on the Housing Task Force, if you haven't already, to make sure that you review that document. And I'll make sure that you all have that so that you can access that while you're watching me say this right now, and review it. So the deadline is the 9th of April to give feedback and comment. So if you could reach out to your congregations, your groups, anyone who's in the city of Kalamazoo to kind of give their input and feedback, that would be amazing. Okay, so wonderful. Let's talk about the Housing Equity Ordinance Workshop that we had on March 11th. It was amazing. It was absolutely incredible. So I just want to again thank Toby and Stephanie and everyone who participated in making this workshop go. We had amazing turnout from multiple municipalities. And since then, I've had a chance to connect with Jason Knight out of Comstock. Prior to that, I connected with Dexter Mitchell out of the township. So I'm really, really looking forward to expanding on this housing ordinance. And we know already how important it is. But one thing I would like to ask for Isaac, for folks to do, is call into your municipality, for example, Comstock and Portage and the township, when they have their meetings, and start lifting this ordinance up and asking for that as well. I've come to understand that they also need the supports from congregations and from people who are living in these municipalities to help them push this through as a collective effort. So I want to make that ask now. And I know Isaac folks do great at showing up at meetings. But if we really be intentional about that, that would be very helpful. And so anything I want to share about our next commission meetings coming up. So as you all know, we have a committee of the whole meeting on today at 5 o'clock, which is why I'm not with you all. I'm not sure if anybody had a chance to take a look at, we had a retreat a few weeks ago where we went over plans and ideas for 2022 budget. This is an attempt, it was a suggestion I made to try to get the focus back on the community being the ones that are leading priorities and how budgets are being spent. And so we went through and we came up with some priorities. We're not completed with that work yet. We will come back to it. But part of what we need to do is define success in these areas. And so we will spend the next few committees of the whole getting presentations from city staff on these various areas. Housing is one of those areas, and we will be getting a presentation from city staff in the upcoming weeks, and I'll make sure that you all know about those as well. And so keep your ideas and thoughts in ways that the commission can, invest in our communities around housing into 2022. So what's coming up on our business agenda meeting for tonight? Well, we don't have a lot in terms of housing, but one thing that I would like to share with you all, as I know personally, I've gotten a lot of feedback from Ray Sweeney. Hi, Ray, if you're here today, with respects to bus stops. There have been some improvements in bus stops over the past years, and we did such a great job that there was some funding left over that we're able to improve 14 more bus stops. And so that is something that's exciting when we talk about housing and people being able to be mobile, how important and how those often run hand in hand. So I definitely wanted to share that with you all and encourage you all to read through the agenda, to participate, to write in, to email in, because we really, really need that feedback from community. And I just really want to end by saying thank you all for the hard work that you do. It doesn't go unnoticed. As someone who's sitting in the commission, I know just how effective and how powerful the work that Isaac does. So thank you all, and I will see you next time. So one other thing that I failed to mention earlier is that I serve on the Brownfield Board / Economic Development Corporation. And I learned a lot with the 400 North Rose project, how much I didn't know. And I had a lot of questions about affordability and the rental rates and who all was going to be able to live there. But I wasn't getting the detail that I needed. And then I found out that there was an executive committee that kind of goes really deep into the projects before they even get presented out to the larger open meeting at the Brownfield. And so questions around affordability and, AMI and rates and things like that are questions that I now can ask early on in a project as opposed to later on. But here's where I could use your help, Isaac. I know you all have wonderful thoughts, wonderful ideas, and amazing questions about these projects. And as I now serve in this capacity, I would love if you all could compile a list of questions, not for a specific project, but for projects in general. So that when I'm in these spaces, these are the questions that I can ask because these are the things that I know that are important to our community and to folks at Isaac who are doing such amazing work around this. So that is my ask to you all. And please, there's no question that's too out there. There's no question that, whatever it is, let's ask, because being in these spaces originally is how we're going to impact and change the outcomes of these spaces. So thank you guys. If you have any questions on that, please feel free to let me know, but absolutely, I could use your help. So as you all probably have heard by now, the County of Kalamazoo received $17 million in SARA funds, SARA meaning COVID Emergency Relief Assistance. And you all will hear from Jacob Beach to give you more details on that program, but it's really going to assist families with back rent, possibly future rent, and any utilities, including internet. So that is an amazing relief to our community as it relates to eviction prevention funding. Another set of funding that will be coming through the city of Kalamazoo, as well as the county, is a COVID stimulus package that President Biden signed in, I believe, on March 12th. That allows the city of Kalamazoo to receive about $40 million in funding, and the county will receive around $50 million in funding. We do not know yet what the guidelines are of how and what we can spend this money on. So there will be a public work session that will take place during one of our committees of the whole to go over what the guidelines are for this funding so that the commission can decide how this funding or where this funding should be spent. So you all will be notified as soon as we find out what the guidelines are. I know that the money is going to be dispersed twice. So there will be a first disbursement and there will be a second disbursement, but that's about as much as we know right now. So in the sake of being transparent, we'll find out together how we can spend the money, and then we'll figure out together, what we can spend the money on. But be mindful of that, get your ideas floating. There's so much money coming into this community, which we were never really resource without resources. It's just how we're spending these resources. And this is another opportunity to make sure that we're being equitable and thinking about everyone in our community.